Hello, and thank you for watching my second video now for this proposal. Um, I put in another proposal, an earlier proposal last month, pre-proposal actually, not a real proposal, pre-proposal last month, covering the same subject, the same topic, and wanted to slim that down a little bit. I'd made some changes to the proposal that I would like to put in, and so I wanted to make a second video. It's a little bit shorter than the first video, just covering the highlights and covering the changes that I made since the last one. So if you do want to check out my last one, it's right here on the Dash forum under the name Pre-Proposal Community Stipends. So I put in this pre-proposal, and I had a little poll last month where I asked, should I put this proposal in this month, meaning last month, or next month, meaning this month? And I got some pretty good feedback. I got basically 10 people asking for it to be put in. 6 thought it was a good idea to put it in then, and 4 wanted me to put it in now. So I think that it's got some pretty good feedback, and I got some pretty good comments, and it did get a little off topic, so I may actually do another forum post, but I have yet to decide that. But anyway, I feel like there's a pretty good demand for this kind of thing, so I'll probably put it in the next few days. So go ahead and look for that, or maybe it's already in by the time you're watching this. So just to cover the basics again, and I'm not going to get into too many details, but I'm happy to answer questions on the forums or Slack or anywhere that you can reach me. And me being Ryan, right here, you can see my name, and that's the same handle that I use in Slack, the Dash Nation Slack, the forum, and other places. Dash Vote Tracker being, I guess, the only other one there. So this is called Community Stipends, and again, this is the second video, so if you do want to check out the first one, you can get a little bit more detail there. The overview here, this proposal would provide off-treasury stipends for community members to start and maintain small-scale projects. So just a brief summary of what that means. The scope of the project is to fund small-scale projects with compelling off-treasury proposals. So off-treasury meaning people would put in little proposals to this program, this proposal, and they would have their own little projects that get lumped together and funded through this proposal that I'm proposing. The schedule for this would be a 2-month charter for the administrators and 5 1-month subcontracts. So before I was doing 3, now I'm doing 5. That's one of the differences between these two proposals, 2 versions of the same proposal. And the budget I've increased accordingly to 50 Dash per month for 2 months. So the motivation behind this thing is that Dash is growing, the treasury is growing, and that's causing a few challenges. They're good challenges because Dash is growing and the budget is growing, but it's creating a couple of challenges that I'd like to address with this proposal. As we know, the proposal fee is 5 Dash, and because the price is increasing, that makes it higher and higher fee in terms of US dollars or whatever currency you're using to actually make that proposal. So I think what that's manifesting itself with is that not a lot of people are putting in proposals, and consequently there are funds that are left unused. And I think in terms of growth, we would like to use all the funds that we can, provided that we have good proposals. So this proposal will help to alleviate that problem. And I'll get into some of these details later as we go throughout the presentation. This will also improve contractor accountability. Some proposals get submitted and then nobody's really nobody's really like seeing them through. Everybody sees what's going on with the proposals, but sometimes if there's not one accountable person checking in on these things, on these efforts, then sometimes things slip through the cracks and deliverables aren't actually delivered. So this would also help that. And this will also lower the burden on masternode owners in evaluating proposals, because there will be fewer proposals actually hitting the network. All other things being equal, I guess. And this will also onboard more community contributors, because the barrier to propose something as a subcontractor to this program would be lower than proposing to the network itself. And so you'd get more people actually doing stuff and getting compensated for it. And as people work in this program, they would be seen as people doing stuff for the network, and that would be good experience for potentially joining the core team. So it would prepare future core candidates. And it would promote decentralization, because right now you only have the option of submitting proposals to the network yourself, or being on the core team if you want to get compensated for what you're doing for Dash. Being part of the core team is kind of a challenge. That's a big process, and it's not easy to onboard new employees into the Dash core team. And it's also a challenge to submit your own proposal in many cases. And sometimes it's just really not even worth it, because it's such a small project that you have in mind. So the reason that this promotes decentralization is that it gives people more options to work for Dash than just going all the way to working for core, or doing your own proposal, or actually not doing your proposal because it's too high of a barrier to entry. So I will probably cover some of that later as well. Just some background. In my last video, I went over this in a lot more detail than I probably will in this video. So if you are curious, like if some of this doesn't make sense, then you can maybe go look at that one. But I told a story of two Dash users, and I named one Connie, the community contributor, and then the other one Matt, the masternode operator. And this was kind of a story to set up the problem that we have, the challenge that we have with the increased budget. And I'll briefly review that. Basically, Connie is somebody who wants to contribute but sees the high barrier to entry in putting in her own proposal or working for core, and so she just can't really do it anymore, or she decides to just work herself thin to the bone by doing a bunch of Dash stuff on the side of her full-time job, and that's kind of not sustainable. And then on the other side, you have this masternode operator who is getting a lot of proposals and kind of getting voter fatigue, and might want to slim down the number of proposals that actually hit the network, because it's just fewer to evaluate. And this proposal is kind of helping with that as well. So just to review the slide that I had in the last video really quickly, if you assume that the proposal costs $500 to submit for, Connie in our example, that would be $100 per Dash at 5 Dash. And if you consider that she's putting in 10 hours to submit this proposal, and she values her time at $25 an hour, that's kind of like a $750 hit that she's going to take just to submit the proposal. And if what she's considering doing for the network isn't really even worth that much, then, and there's this chance that it might not get funded, then it doesn't really sound like a good proposal. It doesn't sound like something that she would want to do, which is exactly what's happening. Not a lot of people are doing those things, or at least not getting compensated for them. And then the masternode operators, every time a proposal hits the network, there's going to be about 1,000 eyeballs, masternode, operators that look at this proposal, and it's going to take them at least 15 minutes to evaluate it. And if they value their time at $40 per hour, that's basically costing the network $10,000 worth of evaluation time for every proposal that hits the network. So right now there's kind of a problem with the proposal fee being high enough so that it's discouraging people from doing proposals. And so the number of proposals to evaluate has been kept in check as the price has increased. But the problem with that is that it's just not a lot of people are contributing that could and should be contributing. So there is a proposal out right now to reduce the proposal fee to 1 dash. And I support that effort, and I think that we should do that. And I don't know if it's going to pass this month, or even if it does pass, how long it will take to actually do that change. But the fact is, when that happens, if the proposal fee does reduce, then a lot more people are going to be inclined to submit proposals to the network, and that's going to overwhelm the masternode operators. So no matter which way we look at it, there's going to be a problem where either too many proposals are being submitted to the network, or too few proposals are being submitted to the network, and we're losing out on good contributors. So this proposal is trying to solve both of those problems at the same time. So again, what I'm proposing is that one group, one team or administrator, it could be one person or it could be a collection of people, and I'm proposing specifically 2 administrators to do this work. They would submit a proposal, or I would submit this proposal, and it would cover up to 5 proposals, or maybe actually more if I get more interest at lower costs. But up to 5 or maybe even more proposals would be funded underneath me or underneath the administration group, which could be, I'm proposing 2 people, just to make it simple as a pilot program. I think I covered this then. So some example projects that might propose their scopes of work to this administration group might be simple software projects or marketing efforts. So mobile apps, and maybe the proposal isn't to like do a soup to nuts kind of start to finish application, but a confined scope of work for some of these software projects that are not really correlated but would help the network. Marketing efforts, we all know that there's a lot of things that we can do in terms of marketing. Merchant onboarding, meetups, regular blogs, vlogs, podcasts, things like that. And so as I looked through the proposals last month and this month, at least 10 of those proposals could fit under something like this program. So the deliverables for what I'm proposing would be, there would be 2 types of deliverables. The admin's deliverables would include kicking things off with a request for other proposals. So it'd be like a formal document that says, here's how you propose to this group. Here's how you send a proposal to this administration group in order to get your funding. And so we would kick that off, and then there would have to be, after they've done their scopes of work and they get paid for them, then we would provide proof of those payments. And then they in turn, so skipping down here, the RFP winners, RFP meaning request for proposals, they're going to send proposals to me or whoever's doing this administration, most likely me and some other person that hopefully I'll find. They would submit their proposals using a format maybe similar to this, and then they would have to deliver their deliverables to me, and then I would deliver all of those deliverables to the network, to the community, to whoever they're targeted at. And so that's kind of how the deliverables would work. And again, those aren't going to be spelled out yet because they haven't been submitted yet, because nobody knows about this project, hasn't been funded yet. So hopefully that will happen. The schedule for this is, again, it would be a 2-month trial pilot program, and it would be kicked off with a request for proposal from the administrators. 5 proposals would be approved to commence work, and the like we saw on the last slide, the administrators' deliverables are kind of spelled out, but the subcontractor deliverables depend on what actually gets proposed, which is in the future. So here's a few milestones that this proposal would hit along the way. So the super block happens on the 5th of next month, and then a few days after that we would submit to the net, basically publicize the process of doing a request for proposal, and people would have a week to submit their proposals, and the deadline would be then the 15th. And the administrators would approve these subcontractors, and then they would start their work, and they would work for 1 month, and then they would report back to the master. They would report back to the administrators, and then the administrators would report to the masternode operators and the community in large. And then this could be renewed if that whole thing is successful. So what's the specific budget? 50 dash per month for 2 months. The items that will cost money are the actual subcontracts. There would be 5 of them, and so I'll get into some details on the table in the following slide. The administrators, there would be 2 program admins, and there's some contingency and expenses, and then the proposal reimbursement. So putting some numbers on that. Each subcontract, there 5 of them would be up to 10 dash each, and so that would be 50 dash, and there would be 2 administrators. They would be working for 2 months, and they would be doing 10 dash. They would be getting 10 dash per month. And I would also expect, I'm going to be one of the administrators, likely. So I am also planning on not just doing administration, but doing a project of my own. And I will submit that as an example project so that people can kind of know what to do, how to submit their projects to me. And so I'm not just going to be pushing papers. I'm going to actually be doing some kind of software project that I'll get into details later for that in another video. And then you can kind of look over these costs in these notes. But overall, this is going to be 100 dash, so it'd be 50 dash for 2 months. So that's the summary. That's the project. And basically, to wrap it up, this is basically subcontracting, bringing subcontracting to Dash. Or another way to look at it is that it's pooling proposals to be submitted to the network. So instead of having each person have to submit to the network and having masternodes all evaluate all those proposals, they would be pooled. And this would be beneficial, in my opinion, and I'm happy to answer questions or concerns about that, but this would be beneficial to all the parties involved, in my opinion. This would serve the contractors, the people doing work, contributing to Dash in their various ways, because they would be able to get compensated for them and not have to go through the submission and risky process of the treasury itself. And this would help masternode operators by having fewer proposals to evaluate, and having a single point of contact to kind of keep accountable for all these other projects that happen underneath, the 5 projects that happen underneath this prime or general contractor. And this would help the community as a whole, because it would be getting more people involved, and that's always better. So it's always better to have more people involved that are kind of working independently. So summing up some of the key benefits, again, it's a cost-efficient way to scale in a decentralized way. So you can work for Dash with a low barrier to entry. This will reduce the cost of community contribution and reduce the cost of masternode governance. And if anybody out there is well known and trusted in the community, I would be happy to put your address as the payout address, and so to escrow this thing. So if people don't trust me, then that I'll deliver, then I'd be happy to do this, do the whole thing, and then only get paid by the whoever wanted to escrow these funds. But just give me your thoughts on that. If you have concern with that, then I'm happy to do that. And I'm also looking for another administrator. So if you're interested in kind of doing an some admin work on this, and also are doing something else for Dash, I don't want you to be just doing admin for this to get paid 10 Dash. I think you should probably also be doing something else, like I do. I host a meetup that I've been doing for a couple months and organizing that, and we've got 36 people. I think we've met like 5 times, and it's going pretty well. So that's kind of what I've been doing uncompensated, and that's one example of something that can be done. Like I said earlier, I'll continue doing this meetup, but I'll also be writing some software for the network for my 10 Dash, as well as administrating the program. So I think that's kind of a lot to be doing for 10 Dash, and whoever else wants to do the administration, I would kind of expect you to be doing something else as well for the community. And if I do put another forum post, then I will probably have another poll, just a general poll about whether or not you support this kind of a project. Yes, no, or maybe would be like, yeah, I kind of like the idea, but something needs to be tweaked. So give me your feedback on that. And that's it. So thanks for sticking around on this video that actually also turned out longer than I hoped, but less than the last one, I think. So